It's a great training partner, long story short. Hi guys, it's Matt here. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing fabulous. I'm back with another review. This time around, I'm going to be reviewing the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar, Garmin's top Forerunner, which I have been wearing for the last month since it was launched. Actually, I started wearing the watch before it was launched because Garmin very kindly sent it over before the launch. But I'm not affiliated with Garmin, so I'm not going to say anything nice, or not going to say just nice things about the watch just because it was sent over by Garmin. This is an honest review, and what I'm going to be talking about in this video is my opinion about the watch, the things that I like about the watch, and the things I don't like about the watch. So let's get cracking. So in today's video, or in this Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar video, I'm going to be talking about the specifications of the watch as such. Plus I'm going to mention 6 things that I really like about the watch, and then 5 things that I don't like about the watch. If you watched the video about my initial thoughts about the watch, I think the balance was a bit like there were a few more positives than negatives. They kind of evened out. And I'm going to talk about at the end of the video whether you should buy the watch or not. Again, all things considered, is still the top of the line Forerunner. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about that I don't like about the watch, some of them will be able to, Garmin will be able to amend these later on with firmware updates, hopefully. And even all these kind of taken into account, it's still a fantastic watch. However, it's not a perfect watch, so to say. Along this review, I'm going to be comparing the watch with its predecessor, which is the Forerunner 945. And I also happen to have the Phoenix 7X, as you might know from one of my previous videos. Basically hands down my favorite watch of 2022 so far. I kind of wore the two together, well, a little bit anyway. It wasn't continuously because obviously I only got 2 wrists, so I can only wear like 2 watches at a time without looking like an absolute madman walking around with 4 watches. Anyhow, today I'm going to be talking about Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar. 1 month review. Let's get going. Before I get to the positives of the watch, let's just talk through what the physical specifications and like kind of the new features of the watch itself. So the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar and the 955, which is like the non-solar version of the watch, have been announced on the 1st of June, and it's available now to buy. I believe it's $600 in the US. $550 in the UK. That's the non-solar that's the solar version, and the non-solar version is $500 and £480. Interestingly enough, the Garmin Forerunner 945, the non-LTE version of the watch, is $600. So for the price of a standard 945, you can get a solar 955. So this is straight away, this is very good value for money watch. So basically you got more accurate sensors, updated sensors, both in terms of you got better GPS, you got a better heart rate monitor, you got longer battery life, you got solar charging, you got all the other new features for the same price as the 945. Don't get me wrong, I think the price of the 945 will drop eventually, but for now you can get the watch, the 955 Solar, for the same price as the 945. Which I think is a pretty good deal. The watch itself has a polymer case, so obviously still a plastic case. It's considerably light. It's 53 grams with the strap. It has a 1.3 inch memory pixel screen. Again, if you see my previous videos, I kind of think that we will have to start moving on from just offering watches just with the memory pixel screen. And even Garmin offers some of its watches, such as the Venue 2 or the Venue 2 Plus, or even the Epix 2 with the AMOLED screen and pretty good battery life. So I wish there was an AMOLED option for the 955. Something that people often bring up as like, well, the battery life wouldn't be the same. Obviously, it wouldn't be the same, but it wouldn't be terrible. And again, considering the battery life on the 955 Solar without the AMOLED screen, there are watches that can last for 10 days with an AMOLED screen. Again, just putting it out there. Maybe they're not quite as accurate, maybe they haven't got quite as many sensors, but I'm thinking, would it not be nice to have a non-solar version of the 955 with an AMOLED screen with 7 days battery life? I mean, I would be happy with that. Anyhow, that's my own opinion. So memory in pixel screen, it's 260 pixels times 260 pixels, the resolution. Other than that, you got like a usual, I think you got like Corning Gorilla Glass at the, protecting the, the display itself. And one of the new things is that it's finally a touchscreen watch. Again, just like how the Phoenix 7 series added the touchscreen to the Phoenix line. The Epix is also touchscreen. Again, the Venue is touchscreen. The 255 isn't touchscreen. It has other good qualities, but the 955 is touchscreen and it works really well. Something I'm going to be talking about, a bit later on in the video. And then finally, the watch, the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar, uses the latest generation of the Garmin's Elevate heart rate sensor, which is the version 4 of the the Elevate sensor. Again, pretty accurate. It was rolled out last year with the Venue 2, and then any subsequent launch used the V4. Most of them are pretty accurate. As always, these watches, especially the 955 is a multisport watch. However, the heart rate monitor and then the algorithm that detects the heart rate and kind of translates the data into whatever your heart rate is more tailored toward endurance sort of activities such as running and cycling and all that stuff. So when obviously there's not massive spikes in the heart rate, it still detects the spikes in heart rate. I did quite a few sprints with the 955 Solar and threshold runs and whatnot, and you could see obviously the peaks in heart rate. So it's not terrible. However, on other occasions, like it couldn't quite keep up, like at least not as fast as the heart rate changed. But that's just you wearing a watch on your wrist that gets sweaty. Obviously, we've got different skin tones, so there is a bit of that. So I wouldn't trust my life on any optical heart rate sensor that's worn on the wrist. But of those, the 955 Solar seems to be like a pretty accurate one. Now we've got the specifications out of the way. Let's talk about what I like about the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar, of which are 6 things. And one of them is something that I mentioned in the intro, which is a touchscreen. I really like the touchscreen. It worked really well on the Phoenix line. It worked really well in the Epix. It's not laggy. It kind of makes sense. And back in the day when the Polar Vantage V2 was launched, I was like, do we need a watch with 5 physical buttons and a touchscreen? It's just a bit confusing because do you want I just thought there was no need to have 5 buttons and a touchscreen. But ever since then I realized it was more like the Vantage V2 being a bit slower, processor, which they addressed with the Pacer Pro. But then again, that hasn't got touchscreen. Anyway, the Forerunner 955 Solar has a touchscreen. It's really responsive. I never had any issues with it, and it's quite intuitive to use as well. It uses the usual interaction, so kind of like swipe right to go back a menu, up and down. The user interface is pretty good, and it's well tailored for this touchscreen experience. So that's one thing that I really like about the 955 Solar. The second thing that I really like, and I used it, and I was, it takes quite long for the watch to set a baseline, is the heart rate variability. So, the fact that it tracks heart rate variability, and then on the back of that, it gives you a training readiness score as well. So heart rate variability has been announced, when the 955 came out, and then the 255. So these 2 variables measure heart rate variability, which is the difference between your heartbeats when you sleep. And long story short, basically the bigger the difference between the heartbeats, the better, the more ready your body is to exercise, hard, essentially, on any given day. And Garmin uses this heart rate variability as an addition to obviously all the other metrics that it uses already. There's a bunch of them, including body battery and how you slept and how you recovered and how vigorously you trained the day before, the week before, to give you this training readiness score, which is I found it very useful to gauge how much work I put in my training. And I think it's just a very nice addition, and it helps you kind of gauge how hard you're training. Obviously you got like the training load already, and there's like a lot of other different metrics that you can use with Garmin watches, but the training readiness finally starts to kind of bring these all together and give you a score that's just a one score, as opposed to having to check multiple different features to kind of work out yourself whether you're ready to exercise or not. again, I found it very, very useful. So that was the second thing I really liked. The third thing that I really like about the 955 Solar is the GPS. So it uses similar to the 255S and 255, a standard 255. It uses the new multi-system, multi-GNSS kind of positioning system, which means that it, as opposed to just using the one band, it uses different bands to track GPS. GPS, and not just GPS, and obviously GPS is just one of the satellite systems, so it uses 4 or 5 different satellite systems, and it just picks up GPS like blisteringly fast. It latches onto this. I mean, I never had any issues with the GPS in terms of a GPS dropping during my runs, and then as soon as I kind of step outdoor, choose the run sports mode, 3 seconds later the GPS is locked on and now ready to go, which is great because obviously who wants to wait around like 15 minutes for the GPS to come on? Like no one does. Number 4 is as a heart rate sensor. I must say I used it very often with the HRM-Pro heart rate strap because of the running power and all the other stuff that it gives you if you use it for the HRM-Pro heart rate strap. But when I didn't use the heart rate strap and just relied purely on the 955 Solar's heart rate monitor, it seems pretty good. As I said, it kind of follows the even if you have a sprint session, you could see the spikes, you could see like how it trails off. And again, like even during the day, it always seems to be on point, the heart rate monitor. So based on my assessment, it's pretty good. So, that was number 4. So the 5th thing that I like about the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar is that it's very, very light. Well, it's much lighter than the Garmin Fenix 7X. However, it kind of is almost as capable as an outdoor watch. So obviously you got the maps on this watch, you got the touchscreen, but it's also very light. So it's kind of like, you get if you're not that keen on the smartwatch nature, like a premium smartwatch nature of the Fenix line or the Epix line, you can get the 955 Solar, which is cheaper, and still have solar charging. You still have the maps, you still have the touchscreen, but in a much lighter package, which is better for exercise and workout training, because the watch sits better on your wrist. Again, it's 53 grams, so like the Chorus Pace 2 is basically like half the weight of this watch almost. Well, not quite, but almost. Again, the 255S is like way smaller than this one, but for something as versatile as the 955 Solar, I think it's a pretty good weight. And again, you can use it for outdoor activities as well. So you can kind of use it as an outdoor watch, as like for for hiking and tracking and stuff. So I think that's pretty good. And then the last thing I like about the 955 Solar is the race day widget. So in the Garmin Connect app, you can find different races, and then you can set a race in the calendar. So let's say I'm going to the London ASICS 10K in a few weeks' time, and I set it up as a goal date, and I could also set up a target pace in Garmin Connect for that particular race. And the widget on the watch is gonna give you like a bit of detail about the upcoming race, so such as what's the weather forecast for the day, and also you can see the daily workout suggestions coming after the race, and then the daily workout suggestions are going to be tailored for this race as well, and you can see all this on the watch. And I found it very good because if you're not part of like a running club or anything, you can use the daily workout suggestions, which is going to give you a bit of a variety in your training. And now these workout suggestions kind of work into the race, take the race into account, and you can obviously also see in the watch. So it's going to give me a taper week, and then it's going to make sure that obviously given that there's a long enough time, and then my target pace is not like out of the realms of possibility, it will try to adjust your workout load and everything else, so you're ready for the race, and then you as close to, from a performance point of view, to your desired pace as possible. So it's really nice. Okay, so now I talked about the 6 things I really like about the watch. Let's talk about the 5 things that I don't, I'm not the biggest fan of. And the first of that being is the battery life. I read online that some people reported battery drain issues with the 955 and the 955 Solar, and I'm not sure if that's the case. However, I do notice that battery life seems to be a bit shorter than what I expect of a watch that's that hasn't got an AMOLED screen and that has solar charging. So on paper, I believe the smartwatch battery life of the 955 solar should be around 15 days or up to 15 days. And with the solar, again, I don't think that is kind of relevant to me, because I would have to be out for like 3 hours, with full sun and whatnot, which I don't, but obviously there's just not enough sun in this country. But anyway, so it should still last for 15 days. And also the GPS battery life should be 20 hours as well. And then 8.5 hours with music. So this is like the multi-GNSS, like when it's like all out GPS, 20 hours. So you got 15 days, which includes this 20 hours of GPS battery life. So I would think that you could use the watch for a week at least without having to charge it. Even if you're out like an hour a day exercising, because that would take, with the GPS. Again, not listening to music. So, that would bring it down to, the 7 hours of GPS battery life, plus, a bit of like using watch for this and that. So I guess, I would think that 1 week is not an extreme thing to ask. However, I found myself putting it on charger more than once a week, the watch, because it was kind of being depleted, or it was very close to being, completely depleted, the battery, which is a bit strange because I, as much as I didn't spend 3 hours out a day, using the GPS and charging the watch and whatnot, I was still outside, and you could see some solar charging going on, with the solar intensity on the solar intensity widget. So I wasn't sure. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think there's like necessarily a battery drain situation. One thing that I did is I cranked up the backlight to 100% to see the watch better. So it could be that just actually eats the battery life up to like a crazy degree. But during the workouts, it always, I have the workout like a light back to, I think it's like 20 or 30% or whatever. So it's still kind of low. It's not like I keep on looking at the watch all the time either. So it's just a bit weird. I think, I guess based on like how, that I can use the Garmin Fenix 7X for like a month without charging it. And this one I have to charge like, once a week or more than once a week. It's a bit like, I'm just not sure. So maybe there are some issues with the battery. I'm not sure. Maybe there are too many features. There's too many sensors on or something. But there is certainly something going on. That's all I can say. That was the first thing. The second thing is that I don't like is it's not like I don't like this. So the morning report, I quite enjoy it at first because it was like, oh, such a nice thing. You wake up, you look at your heart rate variability, how well you slept. Look at your daily workout suggestions and whatnot, and if the watch was close enough to your phone, it can even give you like a weather report or what's coming up through the day. However, after like let's say after like a week, the novelty kind of wore off, and I was like just not looking at it that much. So I kind of like still clicked on it. I read my morning reports, but my heart rate variability, because I have a fairly regular sleep schedule, it was always very similar. I kind of checked my workouts anyway. And I didn't care too much about the weather. So it was just like, I guess it didn't give me a lot of extra things that I wouldn't be able to just notice without the morning report. So the third thing that I don't like about the 955 Solar is something that I mentioned with the Garmin Fenix 7X, or in the review of the Fenix 7X, is that it has too many features. And I remember someone commenting on the video saying that like, how can too many features be a problem? Because you get more value for your money. And that's not what I meant. So what I mean with too many features is that Garmin keeps on adding new features to its watches, which is great because, again, we need more features. However, very oftentimes they do similar things to other features that are already on the watch and they're not really connected to each other. So the training readiness addresses it to some degree, but do we need training readiness, training status, body battery, and all the other stuff that does very, very similar things on the watch, when we could just have, basically what I want is all these features kind of revised and brought under one thing, right? Which again, the training readiness does it to some degree, but I don't want to, again, I can personalize the view and I completely understand that, but I guess there's just no point of like having 10,000 features, whereas all I want is all this data to be filtered to me. If you kind of know what I mean. It's just, it would be better if if the watch did the legwork for me and I can just get this information without having to have it, having to piece it together from other sources and stuff. So that's what I meant. Basically, all I want is to streamline the features. So it kind of, if we don't need one feature because it's redundant, like we just don't need that feature. I appreciate that some people might be like, oh, I just don't want the body battery to go because it's the best feature in the world. But if I got training readiness and if I got heart rate variability, do I need the body battery still? Do I want that to be, clog up my anything? Do I need it on the watch if it's like, do I want that to like deplete the battery or whatever? If it's not needed, I don't know. I don't think so. And if you can save on battery life by removing some features or integrating some features into other features, then I would rather have that than 10,000 features. That's all. So that was the third thing. The third thing, and I kind of mentioned this in the intro, is the memory and pixel screen. It's fine. Again, it's an always-on screen. It's big enough. It has enough resolution. Touchscreen is very, very good. However, there's simply just other watches out there with AMOLED screens, brighter screens, that even the Venue 2, again, a very capable fitness watch that can be used as a running watch as well if you wanted to, not necessarily a multi-sport watch, that has a big AMOLED screen. And I know people are going to be like, oh, Matt keeps on yapping on about the AMOLED screen. It's 2022. There are a lot of watches with AMOLED screens, big AMOLED screens as well. So I guess I would like to have the option to have the top of the line Forerunner with an AMOLED screen. That's all. And the fifth thing that I don't really like about the watch is the native running power, which is fine, but you need the strap. You need a heart rate strap. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind wearing the heart rate strap, but again, you've got cheaper variables, Polar Pacer Pro, Chorus Pace 2, that also measure running power on the wrist without any external things. So again, if you would think that Garmin could find a way for the watch to be able to measure running power without you having to wear a running pod or a heart rate strap. It's just like if you pay so much money for a wearable, it just, I guess, again, this day and age where other wearables can do it for like, a Chorus Pace that came out like 2 years ago. It's just, and again, I think even previous Polar watches had this feature on the wrist. So you would think that when Garmin launches a couple of variables that can measure running power, they will be able to do it without any external sensors, but they can't. So the big question, should you buy the Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar? I would say that unless you're like a hardcore athlete, you're probably better off with the 255. It's just cheaper. You got the heart rate variability, you got the running power, you got a bunch of other things. You got the morning report, which is like, if you want that, and you got all the sensors and all the GPS. So I guess the 255 is better value for money. However, obviously, if you want a Forerunner that does everything, you're gonna need the 955. And I would recommend of the two, I would recommend the 955 Solar. And I know it's more expensive, but based on the battery life situation, I would say that once these like battery drain situation is ironed out, you get more out of the watch's battery life with the Solar, especially if you do a lot of outdoor training, which if you're a triathlete, you're going to be swimming in water, you're going to be running outside, and then you're going to be cycling. So there's more potential in the Solar version. I think from a longevity point of view, the 955 Solar is a better option, really, all things considered. And again, all things considered with the watch, it's still a pretty good watch. I mean, I wore it for a month, and I don't regret wearing it for a month because I enjoyed wearing it, and it gave me a lot of useful data to work with. And again, with the race day widget, again, something that's also in a 255, it's a great training partner. Long story short, it's not cheap. And again, I'm not saying it's far from being perfect, but it's not perfect either. But it's a really good watch, long story short. So that was it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you like the video, please leave a like because it means a lot. I'm super grateful for anybody who watches these videos. I do them in my free time, and I love doing them, and I love getting the feedback from you guys, even if it's negative or if it's constructive. I'd say, oh Matt, just make sure I don't know, like that was my first few videos. I couldn't work out how to use the Rode Wireless Go 2, and then my sound, came from the one channel only. So only, if you listen to headphones, you could only hear from the one side. But now I figured it out. I've got better microphones. I've got lights now. So I always try to improve based on your feedback, guys. It's very, very important to me. And there's more reviews coming. There's more roundups coming. So obviously, if you subscribe, you're gonna see all of these and hear all of these, hopefully in stereo. And thank you for watching ever so much, and I shall see you very, very soon. Bye.